Hi, welcome to the Nurture Nature Show. I am the Reverend Dr. Laura Kim Joyner of One Earth Conservation and Ministry. I serve as wildlife veterinarian and Unitarian Universalist minister. During our time together, we will have a chance to nurture ourselves so that we can nurture all of nature. Welcome into this community of hope and nourishment and solidarity with all of life. Welcome to the Nurture Nature Show, where today's theme is compassionate communication. Compassionate communication, or nonviolent communication, is just really a way to develop our emotional and social intelligence. And we do this because it deepens our relationships and deepens our connection to life. And by deepening our connections to ourselves and relationships and to life, I believe we have a greater chance to nurture ourselves and to nurture all of life and all beings on this planet. And I so wish this for our biotic communities, this great flourishing. So I'm so glad that you are with me today. And as we talk today, I'm going to ask you to reflect upon this question. How can you be the peace that you wish in the world? How can you turn the world around? I believe that you can turn the world around. So let us exemplify that with this story adapted by Christine Frey. You, the watchers of this show, one day you will be the wise elders of the community, and the children will gather around you and they will say, tell us of the great turning. And you will reply, you want us to tell you of the great turning, or how we saved the world from certain destruction? Well, the answer is complex and it's simple. We turned. For hundreds of years we had turned away as life on this planet grew more precarious. We had turned away from the reality of climate change. We had turned away from the children in Iraq, from the mothers in Africa dying of AIDS, and of the hundreds and thousands of migrants escaping violence and oppression. We had turned away because we had been taught to turn away from the pain, to turn away from the fear in others' eyes, to turn away from the drunken parent and from the friend betrayed. Always, in actions louder than words, we had been told to turn away, to turn away. And then we became a lonely people, too caught up in the world, moving too mindless, too precariously towards our own demise. Until one day there was nowhere left to turn. Nowhere that did not remind us either inward or outward of fear and anger and hatred and grief. There was nowhere else to turn, and yet on one day someone turned. They turned to face the pain. They turned to face the stranger. They turned to face the hate smoldering in too many eyes, and they turned to face himself and herself. And then another turned, and another turned. And they held each other's hands, and they wept. And soon entire groups of people were changing, all kinds, young and old, and gay and straight, people of all colors, of all nations, of all religions. They turned to one another, yes, understanding the fear and pain, but they also turned towards beauty and gratitude and wonder. They turned towards each other with a longing for peace and forgiveness in their hearts. Now let's take a time to turn to our children and let's think about the theme of gratitude today. Are you grateful? I know that I'm really grateful. I just love this time of year. It's when we all slow down and turn towards seeing the beauty in the world. And there's so much to be grateful for. The holiday music, the presents, the food, oh my gosh. And my favorite is tofurkey, leftover tofurkey. How great is that? Laura Kim's a turkey. Who's calling me a turkey? I am, Jackal. And I'll say it again. Laura Kim's a turkey, Laura Kim's a turkey. Jackal, what? Why are you being so mean to me? Oh, I hate this time of the year. Everyone's just pretending to be nice. Makes me so mad. I'm just going to yelp, 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 yelp. Jackal, what? You can't be yelping during this TV show. I'm trying to give a message of peace. Yep, 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 yep. Jackal, what? If you keep it up, I'm going to have to throw you out on your big bushy tail. Oh, yeah? You've got to catch me first. Yep, 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 yep. Ah, yep, yep, yep. Ah! Freeze. Whoa, boys and girls, is that any way to handle conflict? By grabbing somebody around the neck and fighting? I was just so angry, but it takes such a big heart to deal with Jackal. I need some help. I need a bigger heart. Oh, I know what. I can ask someone who's got a really big heart. Let me see. Giraffes. Giraffes have some of the biggest hearts of all land mammals. Let me ask Giraffe. Giraffe, are you here in the studio? Giraffe? Giraffe? Hello, Laura Kim. How can I help you? Oh, Giraffe, I'm so glad that you're here. You have a big heart and I need help talking to Jackal. How do I talk to him? Well, Laura Kim, you just listen to him and empathize with him. He's doing the best that he can. And when he understands that that's what you're doing, he might be able to listen to you. Oh, but that's so hard to do. I'm so mad at him. Well, of course you're angry. You're trying to give a message of peace so boys and girls the whole world over can live healthy, wonderful lives. It's important to you and to others. Yes, it is. Hey, Giraffe. Yes? Thank you. Thank you for helping me. I think I have enough energy to talk to Jackal now. So thanks so much. Say goodbye to everybody. Bye. Okay, so let's see here. I'm ready to talk to Jackal. I need to listen to him. Now, where did that Jackal run off to? Run off? Are you calling me a chicken? I'm not a chicken. I eat chicken. Jackal, what? Well, you'd really like some respect, wouldn't you? Yeah, I don't know why people are always calling us cowardly. We're really quite fine carnivores, we are. Oh, you'd really like to be understood about how much work it takes to be a jackal and all the great stuff you do in the world. Yeah, that's right. I don't know why all the attention goes to the other carnivores, those cute puppies and herbivores, the bunnies. I mean, we're cool too. Oh, Jackal, you just want to be appreciated for the beautiful animal you are. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yep. Jackal, do you feel like you've been listened to now? Yep. Well, do you think you could be quiet during the rest of the TV show? Oh, yes, I can. Boop. Laura Kim? Yes. Well, can I ask you a favor? Oh, okay. Can I stay for the rest of this TV show and for all the future Nurture Nature shows? Well, Jackal, it's okay with me, but we better ask the audience. But if they're like other audiences I know, they're full of jackals. But let's ask them, what do you say? Can Jackal stay for the rest of these Nurture Nature shows? Whoa, Jackal, they said yes. Oh, that's so great, man. I just love this time of the year, the presents and people being nice and the great food. I wish it could be like this all throughout the year. So peaceful and joyful. Jackal, so do we. And that's why we have the Nurture Nature program as part of One Earth Conservation, because we want peace for all of us all the time. And now I think it's time to say goodbye, and you can go take a seat in the audience. Is that all right? Yep. Bye. In 2003, leading up to the Iraq War, the drumbeat of war got louder and more urgent. In response to this, I too had a beat. But I was beating protest drums, oil barrels, anything I could, my head against the wall, anything to try and stop that war. I was living in El Paso at that time, and we took out a full-page ad in the El Paso Times saying, "No war, not in our name." But then the war did break out, and as I was reading the headlines, I said, the war is in my name. It's happening through my hands and my actions, my thoughts, and the words. I was desperate for the war to stop, but I was not powerful enough to do so. I knew that the violence was within me. And so if I wanted to end that war and all future wars, I had to end the violence that was in me, that was judging other people and myself. And so I started reading Martin Luther King and Gandhi and others and Marshall Rosenberg, and I said, there has to be a way I can end this violence within me. And so I turned to nonviolent communication. It's a form of compassionate communication, and it started off as an outlet so I could get away from war and do my part, but it turned into a life-giving, fun project. And we need fun in this world because we all grew up in a system where people get what they want by doing power over and dominion over others. You have to obey, otherwise you lose your job. You have to be lured on with punishment and reward and not have any fun. And it's where the good guys get what they want by beating up the bad guys. Except that once the fighting starts, you can't really tell the good guys from the bad guys. John Wayne is one of the archetypal heroes of the good guy. And one time he was in a movie and he had 7 arrows stuck into him and he still wasn't dead. And he said, "It only hurts when I laugh." There is pain and it does hurt to laugh. But laughter can be so healing and such a path forward. Joseph Campbell once said, well, I did a study of all the world's religions, and what I found out is this. All the world's religions are saying, don't do anything that isn't play. So let's play today with this idea of nonviolent communication. And one way we're going to play is by putting on jackal ears. Now, this is just a metaphor. Jackals are actually really fine animals. But the jackal represents the part of ourselves with our ears listening where we're judging everybody. Something's wrong with them. My needs aren't getting met, so you don't have worth. You are bad. And this is a horrible way to live. Always judging others. It disconnects us from life and from ourselves and from them. It's like when you read the paper every day or listen to NPR or some radio station, and there are all those politicians going on and on about how bad everybody else is. You're probably thinking they're jerks. They don't care about me. And so that's jackal ears pointed out, judging the other. Now we can also wear our jackal ears like this, pointed inward. That means I'm listening to myself and I'm judging myself. Something's wrong with me. I'm not beautiful. Needs aren't getting met. Somebody must be wrong. Such as in this story about a man who shook the shoulder of his spouse one morning and said, wake up, honey, you have to go to church. And the spouse said, oh, why should I? People are mean to me. They don't like me. I don't like them. The sermons are boring. Tell me, why do I have to go to church? And the husband said, well, honey, you have to because you're the preacher. You're the pastor. Now see, what was going on there is the minister, she was wearing jackal ears both inwards and outwards, judging herself and judging others. Now maybe some of you all are saying, no, I go to a religious or a spiritual community or some community organization, and we don't fight where we are. We're a church, we're a spiritual group, we're a community social service organization. Well, the Pew Study group did a study in the 1980s, and they surveyed the compassionate levels of all the world's religions, the major ones. And you know what they found out? That people who declare themselves as religious, who go to temple or synagogue or church or to the zanha, are far less compassionate than the average person who declares themselves to not be religious. Wow, that's hard news to hear, isn't it? But the study also found out something else, that about 8% of the people are far more religious, more compassionate than the general population. So if you go deep enough, you can have the spiritual awakening that combines you to compassion. So let me see, 8%, that's about 1 out of 13. So the next time you're in an audience with a group of people, look 6 to your left and 6 to your right, and you're the only one who's not a jerk. 1 out of 13. Now, thinking in jerk language, that's a hollowing of the jackal voice, and it's a hollowing out of the soul. But there is another way. That is with giraffe ears. So here I am wearing my giraffe ears, and they're pointed outwards, and everything I see and I listen to, wow, you're so beautiful. Maybe you're not meeting my needs or your needs, but you're just picking a strategy that's harmful, but you still have worth. And then giraffe ears worn the other way is when you listen to yourself and you know you are the beauty reflected in the world. That maybe you make mistakes, maybe harm is caused, but you have tremendous worth and you belong on this planet in all ways. Now maybe you think that wearing giraffe ears and being compassionate is about being nice. No, 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 no. It's not about being nice. It's about being honest and taking risk. So as I learned compassionate communication, I learned to take more risk, to stick my neck out like what other giraffes do. And so I go ever more often to Central America to work against the illegal wildlife trade. And then if ever there were enemies, that's where we see enemies, is in the illegal trade. So giraffes can be fierce and protect their young against the lions and stick their neck outs. And I believe one reason why giraffes can be effective in protecting and preserving this world is because they speak with honesty without judgment. And when they do that, people are more likely to listen to them and to get the job done. But there is a problem with this. You might be saying, well, if I take risk, like if I'm honest, won't I get in trouble? Like if I tell my boss that I work with that he's not meeting my needs and the practices at work are wrong, I could get fired. So yes, there are risks. But here's something that Marshall Rosenberg said, and he's the founder of Nonviolent Communication, is that usually within a group or an organization, 15 to 20% of the people feel like you do. They want to change. So you need to go find them and strategize with them to do a turnaround for your organization and your institutions. We need to go into it knowing that our boss or the other people or the politicians are not our enemies. They're just trying to meet their needs. Well, so maybe then you're going to tell me, wow, that takes so much time. How am I going to have time to do all of this? I believe it actually saves time, as in this story by Marshall Rosenberg. He's gone all over the world sharing nonviolent communication and working with peace activists, and he was invited to Rwanda in 1994 to help with the peace conflict there, or the war conflict, and peace advocates had him come, and he came, and he did this big workshop for all these people so they could try to avert disaster in their country. And then he left, and 6 months later, 1 million people had died in the genocide there. They hadn't started the work in time, and so they lost. So there's no time like the moment to begin the slow changing work, to be the peace that you wish to be in the world. And it's never too late. Even if the conflict is over or if the people have died, there's still the inner work to do. Such as in this story from a man from Burundi I met about 15 years ago. Burundi was like Rwanda. It too had ethnic strife and violence. And the man told us this story of growing up in Burundi. He said, I was 14 the last time I saw my father alive. He'd been imprisoned for something. And I went to go visit him in the prison, and my father came limping out. He had been beaten, he had been tortured. And my father told me, son, you be quiet, you be safe. And so I haven't told anyone since then the story of the murders in my country. But as I go walking around the countryside that's covered with silence and secrecy, I can hear the bones of my ancestors calling out, tell the story, tell the story. And I've never shared this story with anyone until this day, talking to you. And then he broke down and he cried. So great was his relief to share this story of horror, to tell the truth, to be honest, that he lightened up and was joyful that day. And not only that, he gathered people around him that would go back to Burundi with him to help the work of reconciliation. So is nonviolent communication a cure-all? No, it isn't. Burundi is once again enveloped in violence. Will it save children like him or the children of the world? There are no guarantees, but it can help one child, one relationship, one community at a time, such as what I experienced in my life. Several years ago, I worked in a detention center in El Paso, Texas, where they held minors coming up from Central America, undocumented. These were people that were fleeing violence and gangs and drugs and poverty from their homeland. And in this detention center, I met a young man by the name of Yensi. And he'd ridden up on the death train, such as you see pictured here. It's free. And so children get up on this death train, and they often fall to their death or lose limbs, and they are raped and beaten and robbed on this train. But he made it up into the United States, and he was caught by the authorities and turned over to this detention center. And he said, sister, take me home. I want to live here. And he had a claim to asylum because of a refugee status. And he had claim to this because of tremendous domestic abuse in his household. His father had tried to kill him. The day before he left, his father had hung him up from a tree with just his toes barely touching the ground. And that's when he knew he had to leave. So he came up into our country. And I understood young men from Central America. I had worked and lived there. But it was hard. He was so different from us in so many ways. A different tradition, a different language, a different religion, a different gender than I am. And he was really disturbed about gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender issues. And I was a Unitarian Universalist minister, and I married people of the same sex in those days. And so he would sit there with the Bible and quote all these verses and try to change us. And then my spouse especially would sit there with the Bible and other things and try to change him. And there was a sense of conflict and judging each other. And we never raised our voices. We never hit him. But he knew the judgment was there. He thought we were going to hit him because he came from a world of violence and judgment. And so one day I said, oh my gosh, we have to cut this out. We have to break this cycle of violence. We teach nonviolent communication. Why don't we just do it at home? And so we shifted. And he shifted. We began to listen to him, like in the puppet play we were listening to Jackal, and he shifted and he tried harder. And that was 12 years ago. And he's been calling us Mom and Pa ever since then. He got a college degree. He learned English better than mine. He's a U.S. citizen. He's a police officer in Charlotte, North Carolina, due to get married in a month. Yes, it was messy. We made a lot of mistakes. But it isn't about getting it right. It's about holding up that connection and compassion is more important than anything. And therefore we can build a more beautiful world. So I really invite you, it's helped me so much, I really invite you to give it a whirl. Try out nonviolent communication. And if it works, please call me. I want to hear about it. And if it blows up in your face, just call this station. I don't want to hear about it. But listen, I don't think it's going to go bad. I think it's going to work. Because yes, you always have jackal ears, but you always have giraffe ears. Let me show you how and send you home with this. So everybody, put out your hands like this and like a fist, and then stick your thumbs out and then stick them in your ears, okay? And then open your palms and then wiggle them like giraffe ears. And if you've got anyone else in the room or a mirror, go ahead and look. Aren't you beautiful? Those are your giraffe ears. And I believe by connecting that beauty within and the beauty without, we can nurture ourselves and nurture all of life and live more peacefully, more connected, and more vibrantly. And to help you along in this process, what follows after this is we have some reflection questions, some suggested actions, as well as some resources for you to connect with so that you can follow through and practice, because it does take practice, it doesn't come overnight. And do let me know, honestly, how it works out for you or any feedback you have about this show. And all my contact information is at the end of the show. And so now it's time to go. So let us finish with these words from Rumi, a Sufi poet. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in the grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other no longer makes sense. So may you leave today and go out your doors, inviting others to play in this field. And so our service has now ended, but your service to the world has just begun.